Hey there, Puentistas. Hope everybody's hanging in there. I know we're getting close to the end. Thought I'd give you a little bit of an update of what is happening this week. If you notice here on the week 13 module, I'll walk us through what we've got going on right now. Oh my God, and I'm logged out. I'm leaving that in there. I'm not starting over. So what you will notice is that you've got a discussion based on Juan Felipe Herrera's Literary Asylums. And this is a funky kind of poem that talks about lots of different aspects of being a writer or being an audience. And when you're reading it, you might be like, whoa, this is going way over. And you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. There are points in it that I'm really struggling with too. I want you to keep in mind that, all knowledge is partial. There's always something more we can learn about it. So I don't want you to stress about it too much. Remember, these discussions, they're all about just making a conversation, and bringing forward important themes that relate to us, as members of the Puente Project and as members of our community, and how we feel about writing and communicating with others is certainly one of those things. Very quickly, I know I got a weird thing going on here with what you're seeing on the screen and what you're not. I don't even want to talk about that right now. And oh shoot, that says 1A. I'll have to change that to 1B. Okay, I will do that. If you look exactly at what the discussion says, now the phrase that he uses is "our writers," and that basically means rich writers. So he's talking about the relationship between like having a certain amount of financial stability or personal wealth and how that relates to what you write and how you write. So I'm asking you to think about, what does Herrera think these rich writers are like? How they spend their days and what do they write about? Now, you might not agree with everything that Herrera says, and that's okay. He's a human being. He's, his knowledge is partial too. But I think the more interesting question is, suppose you didn't have to worry about money again, or not in, that day-to-day or month-to-month thing, but, you're pretty much set. If you had financial stability to write about anything, what would you write about and why? Maybe it would be a social issue. Maybe it would be something related to activism. Maybe it would not. Maybe it's a little bit of both. Maybe you feel very strongly about a certain subject, but you also have these other interests too. I'd really like to write, a sci-fi novel, or I'd really like to write a young adults movie script or something like that. Anyway, totally freestyle. Keep it open. You know how these things work. Let me bust us back up to modules here. And again, I know it says 1A here, but this is 1B. I've talked to some people about their outlines, and people seem to be doing pretty well, but I know there's still some people working to get them in. If you take a look at this, hopefully it will help you. I built it such that when you are writing this out, you're basically telling two stories or two narratives. That's one way you can do it, and I'm fine with people using that structure. There are two journeys at the core of this assignment. One is that academic journey, right? And the way I've phrased it paragraph by paragraph is like there's the exposition or beginning of that academic journey. And I mean mostly college, but there might be some interesting insights that you got about their earlier lives, in high school or middle school or whatever. You can throw that in if you want. I mean, as the profile writer, you've got, the power to decide what are the important elements of the story. Now, like with most stories or narratives we know, then there's like an increasing tension or struggle, right? So what kind of bumps or obstacles were in the way when they were moving to get their college degree, you know. Then what was the most challenging part of it? It might be one thing, it might be two things, you know. Maybe there was some financial struggle. Maybe there was one class that they were just having trouble with, or just could not make that connection with for whatever reason. And of course, we know at the end of the story, we've got decreasing tension, right? Okay, the battle's over. Hopefully, we won, or we won, but we had to pay a little bit of a price for it. And then we've got that's part of the decreasing tension and the resolution. The resolution too is kind of like where all the dust settles. How is everything kind of moving on from that new normal? And there's that learning moment, you know, right? Any story that's worth telling has that main character, your interviewee, learning something. And that learning something could be about themselves, it could be about other people, it could be about their relationship to school, it could be about human beings in general. Now, notice I've repeated this structure, but for the professional journey next. Now, notice I've put that same structure there. There's a beginning to their professional journey. How did they start applying for jobs? Or maybe how did they know what kind of job they wanted to apply for? What was their tension or struggle when they were trying to get that job or when they started that job? Maybe they were afraid of being interviewed, and maybe they were very nervous, or maybe they had to take a job that was less than ideal for some reason or another. Again, it's totally up to you. Then was the most challenging point up to date, and then that decreasing tension, resolution, and learning. Now that puts you at 8 paragraphs. Now here's the thing. I'm giving you these separate items in order for you to kind of see that structure. Maybe you want to combine those paragraphs. You know, maybe exposition and tension goes together for you. You may not know until you actually write it out. But when you do this outline and turn it in, it's going to give you an idea of, hey, what are the big points I'm going to hit? And remember, having a topic sentence is important. I kind of feel like they're optional for narrative structure and forms because they kind of kill a little bit of that suspense that's coming from not knowing what's going to be happening next. Keep that in mind. Also, if you look at this conclusion, you can repeat that thesis statement in different words. And the thesis statement can go lots of different ways, especially with this one, because you're gathering information. Sometimes the thesis doesn't really occur until you've filled out this outline. So-and-so, my interviewee, worked hard to get through college and to finally get the job that they love at blank. Now that's a pretty kind of skeleton or template thesis statement, but you can take that model and modify it all kinds of different ways. And again, we're still fairly early in this process. If you're feeling, oh, I don't know if this is right or not, what, I want you to come ask me, right? We can talk over email, we can Zoom. I still got tons of advice hours. We can talk over Remind, and text each other back and forth. So don't feel like it's got to be perfect at any step of the game. Part of writing is learning to be comfortable with the fact that it's still in process. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to be rough and weird in places. That's okay. It's totally okay. Now, when you get to this conclusion, you can also ask yourself, okay, after learning about the academic and professional journey of your interviewee, what's that like in relationship to you? What did you learn? What did you find inspiring? And how does this story help you move forward? How is it going to, in some ways, impact the way you look at your academic journey and your future professional journey? Now, these are all suggestions. You don't necessarily have to go that route in the conclusion, but that's one way you could do it. And if you've got other things you think you want to talk about, go ahead and put them in the outline too. Um, anyway, I give you this kind of structure just so you kind of get an idea of where you can put all those ideas you're coming up with. The other thing that I will say is if you want to make it more in a narrative form, and not be like my interviewee said this, my interviewee said that, if you want to just make it sound like, um, let me give an example. Joe Corrales started college at Cal State San Bernardino. Da, 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 da. That's totally fine. One thing I do think you should be careful to stay away from is you don't need to put your questions anywhere in there. You don't have to put in stuff like, say. So then I asked him what his college experience was like. Well, if he's answering that question in your writing, the answer can stand by itself. Just let the words that come out of your interviewee's mouth do it. You know, I asked him where he went to college. He said, I went to Cal State San Bernardino. I asked him what he first majored in, and he said this. That can get a little bit repetitive, a little bit tedious. Just make it like one big long narrative. Anyway, if you've got more questions about that, feel free to let me know. You're not bugging me. Um, Anthony is also available to help you with this. If you notice here, under profile essay submission, you go ahead and load it up. That's not going to be, yours is going to look like this. Student view, boom, start assignment. So those are really my big points for this particular video. Hope everybody's doing well. I know some of you are getting tired. I know this has been a long year. Now, keep in mind if you feel like you're falling behind or that there's stuff just getting in the way, I want to know. I want to work with you to make sure that you succeed and get done what you need to get done in this class. And even if you feel like, oh God, there's no way I can get it done, we could still talk about taking it incomplete. I think that's our last resort, really. But if you must because of things way outside of your control, you can finish up over the summer. But my number one goal is to have you finish this class and keep on making that progress. So when you get to, May 15th or whatever, you're good to go. You've got great memories from this class and being part of Puente. You want to keep on, spreading, some positive interest in what Puente did for you. That is awesome. And sometimes that progress that we make in our classes, it's just chipping away. One class here, then another class, and another class. And I know some people are feeling like, oh, I'm so done with all of this. I totally get it. I totally get it. It's been super challenging doing all of this, and Zooming certainly isn't the way I want to teach. I'd rather be like harassing all of your faces in a classroom, in a nice way, in a helpful way. Um, but anyway, keep doing what you're doing. Um, Come talk to me, about anything big or small. I hope you're having a great week, and I can't wait to hear from you guys. You take care now.